Today, we're going to talk about a few different ways that you can identify if you're on or off track when it comes to building wealth. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Financial Freedom Fast Lane. And remember, the quicker you get to your dream life, the longer you get to live it. And I'm your host, George Achimpong, and I'm super excited for this episode because we are approaching that halfway mark in the year. Now, I saw somebody post the other day. They were like, it's not the halfway mark until June is over, right? Because June is the 6th month, so June has to be complete in order for the month to be over. But anyways, June for me is always that radar to know that like we are getting close to that halfway mark. Whether you count at the beginning or the end of the month, it's time to lock in if you're not already locked in. So today we're going to talk about a few different ways that you can identify if you're on or off track when it comes to building wealth. Most people, for whatever reason, I won't say most, but a good amount of people, for whatever reason, they don't think they have enough money to invest, right? And I strongly disagree. And what we're going to do is we're going to prove that by using everyday things that you spend money on as the litmus test to see if you're on track. Now, what I'll say is this: at the end of the day, entitlement, right, is probably the reason that most people don't think they have enough money to invest. But most people absolutely have enough money to build wealth, but they've created a sense of entitlement through this perceived expectation that they have for their lifestyle. And as a result, they don't think that there's any money left over to invest, which is the first problem. Investing should never be looked at as leftovers. Investing should be looked at as the very first thing you prioritize when it comes to building wealth, right? Pay yourself first. We've always heard this. This is not just with savings. This is also with investing, right? So let's go through this litmus. Why can't I say that word today? Litmus test to determine if you are making prudent financial decisions. All right. Number one, let's start with dining out. Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to log into your online banking, or if you're a member of the Melanin Millionaires Club, shameless plug, I want you to log into My Wealth Health, and I want you to make sure all your accounts are synchronized, and I want you to filter on all your dining out expenses for the previous month. If you're not a member of the Melanin Millionaires Club, you can certainly join and have access to our proprietary tool that allows you to do this in a much more simple fashion. But if you're not, it's okay. That's why we create these podcasts every week, so that you can learn and get gems whether you're in the club or not. All right. So here's the test. If you look at every dollar that you've spent on dining out, so as of this recording, we are in June. So every dollar that you spent dining out in May, right? Compare that to the amount of money that you saved and invested for the month. If you have not saved and invested more money than you spent on eating out, then that is an easy identifier that you are financially off track, right? And that you actually have money to invest. The problem is people will look at the $5, it's probably not $5 anymore, but the $5 to $7 Chipotle bowl, the $10 Chick-fil-A meal, the $20 meal here, and they look at that on an individual basis and they think, well, yeah, that's nothing, right? But why is it that when you look at all your transactions, you can see that it is something and it adds up? But when it comes to investing, you don't think that $5 here, $10 there, $20 here will, I think the way that works, you should probably only say it twice because there's here and there. But that's neither here nor there. Boom. Whether it's $5 here or $20 there, we often don't think that that's going to do anything. But that's the same amount of money that you're spending on eating out, and it's doing everything, right? So if you are currently spending more money on dining out than you are allocating towards investing in a given month, then you're playing yourself. Now, if you are investing equal or greater than that amount, kudos to you. You are on track. I would still challenge you, though, to take a look at those expenses and those transactions and ask yourself, do I still want to spend as much money as I'm spending? Maybe you do, right? And maybe it's totally fine, especially if you're on track by saving just as much slash investing just as much or more than you're spending on eating out. Are you eating your wealth? That's a question, right? Some of y'all are just between Uber Eats and blindly swiping your card at all these different fast food places and DoorDash and whatever. If you looked at all your transactions that you spent on food, it would honestly turn your stomach, I bet. When you think about all the things you could have did with that money. I want you to go through that exercise. And again, if you have an aggregation tool like mint.com or mywealthhealth.app, you can go back and look at historical data. And you'll be able to see how much money you spent so far this year on food and compare that with how much money you've invested for the year. Right? Now, I don't know about you. I'm a foodie and I enjoy good food as well, but not at the expense of me not being able to build wealth, right? There has to be a balance there. There has to be a level of prioritization. So that is litmus test number one. If I am spending more money on dining out, that made me think of the Ric Flair quote.
Last year, I spent more money on spilled liquor in bars from one side of this world to the other than you made.
More money on spilled liquor.
I spent more money on spilled liquor.
Shout out to Ric Flair.
You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kid stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun.
But yeah, if you're spending more money on dining out than you are investing, congratulations, you played yourself. All right, let's move on to the next one, okay? When you look at your car payment and you look at the overall cost of ownership, if you're spending more money on that car than you are spending and investing, you're playing yourself. Now, I'll give you guys a break. I don't expect, because most people have a car, most people eat out, most people have a place to live, right? Spoiler alert, that's one of the items. Most people have one of the things that I'm going to talk about today, if not all. So I don't have the expectation in this litmus test that your cumulative amount of money that you're investing supersedes all those expenses across the board, because that might be a little unreasonable, right? That's unfair. But what I am saying is if you pick any one of these, right, and you're not investing in and or saving and or investing because you save to invest more, right, than you're spending on that item or that thing, you're just hustling backwards, right? Because if you do that, you'll always be forced to work to maintain that lifestyle if you aren't able to tuck enough money away for wealth building, right? So when you look at your car payment, if you have one, your insurance, gas, maintenance, right? You look at how much you spend on that in a month, and if it's easier for you to zoom out in a calendar year, but ask yourself, am I saving and investing more than I'm spending on my car? What's the answer? Now, I know a lot of people are going to have a sense of entitlement. Well, everybody has to have a car. That's not realistic. Let me put you on game. I like to think pretty well for myself. Me and my wife are a one-car household by choice, right? We used to live in a high-rise and everything was in walking distance for the most part. I had a 4 Series BMW at the time. I sold it simply because I wasn't using it. But before I sold it, I put it on Turo and that was working. But I was just like, it's not worth the hassle, right? For me, at least. This is before everybody started talking about Turo on the internet. This was like 2016, right? Fast forward, we move in 2019. And then in 2020, I'm probably going to get a new car. But what happened? Do we know what happened in 2020? The global pandemic happened. So of course I didn't buy a new car, right? But then at that point, I was just like, man, we're really getting by. It's not the end of the world. We both work remotely for the most part. I was like, I don't need it. Could I get one or two? Yes. Will I probably in the near future? Yes. But for the past 5 years, wow, time flies. For the past 5 years, we've been a one-car household. And so what I did was all of the money that I was previously allocating towards my 4 Series BMW, I then just started investing that money, right? In addition to the money I was already investing. And that's a hack too. Whenever you eliminate an expense or pay off an expense, or whatever the case may be, immediately take that money that you already had allocated for that expense and start investing. Because many of y'all will do whatever you got to do to pay certain bills, but you won't do whatever you got to do to pay yourself. Why is that? Right? You are your most important asset. You're the most important thing. But yet you'll find a way, you'll move money around to get certain things paid for, but you won't do it for yourself. Like once I invest, that money is gone. It's the same as if I have a bill. That's my mental framework, right? There's no touching it. There's no accessing it. There's no selling it. It's the same way if I had to pay my mortgage or rent or whatever, right? Once that transaction happens, it's gone. So why don't you treat your investments the same way, right? Now, obviously there's outlier circumstances, but if you plan appropriately, you would have cash on the sidelines to take care of those expenses so that your investments can grow and thrive, right? So again, if you go back and look at the previous month, have you spent more money on your car and the cost of ownership associated with that than you have spent on saving and investing? If the answer is yes, you are spending more money on your car and the cost of ownership, then you already know what that means. You got to get back on track. All right. And you got to lose a sense of entitlement. Maybe you think you deserve to drive a BMW or a luxury car, or maybe you even think you deserve to have a car payment, but maybe based upon where you're at right now, you need a paid off car. Because here's the thing. If you have expenses that are optional or can be reduced and you're not investing, or you're not investing as much as you could, that is an entitlement mentality, unless you have the desire to work forever. So we talked about your car and we talked about dining out, right? And again, you can just take one at a time. Am I at least beating that category, or how many of these categories am I beating? Are you investing more than you are spending money on eating out? Are you investing more than you are spending on the cost of ownership of a car, right? Are you 0 for 2, 1 for 2, 2 for 2? Now let's get into the one that's going to get a lot of people. This always trips me out when people say they don't have enough money to invest. What could it be? What could it be? Aha. Can you guess? Any wild guesses? Vacations and travel. Vacations and travel. If you look at how much money you spent on vacations and travel, right? And for this one, you can go back to last year if you want. How much money did I spend on vacations and travel? And how does that stack up against the money that I invested? If you say that you don't have money to invest and you all over the place, you in Greece, you in Italy, you in all these places, but you're not investing on a consistent, regular basis, that tells me everything I need to know about your commitment level to building wealth in your lifetime, right? Because vacations are temporary escapes. Why not build a life where every day can be a vacation, because you've built up the assets to where work is optional, and now you're doing work that fulfills you. Notice I didn't say that you're on the beach sipping Mai Tais. You could do that if you want to, right? But most people want to be fulfilled. They're not after not working. They're after fulfillment. They're after options. They want working to be an option. And some people, depending upon your job or your business, like you don't want to work, at least not that one. But the reason why you can't do what you're passionate about is because you haven't prioritized profit, right? Profit precedes passion. I just made that up in real time. Don't clip that up. Vacations, all right? Are you spending more money on temporary escapes than you are on permanent wealth building? Okay? All right, we got one more on the list. Can you guess what it is? We talked about cars. We talked about vacations. We talked about dining out. What is the last one on the list? Any takers? Shopping, right? And if you're going to shop the number one brand for wealth building is the color, Melanin Money. But wherever you decide to shop, right, make sure that you're not spending more money on clothes that are probably going to collect dust anyway than you are investing. If you go back and look at your shopping expense and you're spending more money on clothes throughout the year than you are investing, then I don't know what to tell you. Right? Clothes that no matter how fresh you think you are in 5 years, 9 times out of 10, most of the stuff you bought, you're not going to want. But whole time you could have invested over that period of time and had a completely different outcome, right? Because your investments compound and there's an opportunity cost associated with not doing it, right? So think about it. It's not just that you spent $5,000 this year on shopping, right? What you'd have to do is look at the average annualized returns of the investment that you would be investing in or that you could have invested in over that period. And that's the real cost. The cost isn't the 5,000. It's the 5,000 times 8% a year, right? Or whatever you want to do, 8 to 10% a year for 5 years. That is the cost. And when you can start to wrap your head around things in that manner, it becomes a paradigm shifting for how you spend money. Like I will trip out if somebody tries to tax me on something simple. Like I go to a restaurant, I'm like $60, $40. Meanwhile, I will stroke a 6-figure check for an investment overnight, right? Because I understand that I'm buying income. Look at each one of those categories because that's what we call car is arguably not variable because if you have a car payment, right? But those are very big areas of opportunity for you when it comes to identifying or finding money that you can leverage to invest. And I'm not saying you got to go cold turkey. If you're currently spending $800 on eating out, try to go to 6 and then invest to 2. If you currently are spending $200-$300 a month on shopping, maybe cut it in half or maybe just shop every other month. Right? And then use the difference to invest. That is how I would approach it. Because at the end of the day, I'm not saying I don't want to work. I don't want to do what I want to do, but I want to be able to do these podcasts and never charge y'all $1. Now we do want some sponsors. So here's the thing, shameless plug. If you are a small business owner or a big business, right? And you want to sponsor the Melanin Money Show or the Uncensored. Check that out. That's a good podcast too. 117 episodes. The Financial Freedom Fast Lane, Melanin Money Show, or Carter's Tax-Free Living. You want to sponsor us, right? And you want to get in front of a highly engaged audience. Let them know in the comments how highly engaged you are, right? That aligns with your brand to potentially drive more business. Come on over to Melanin Money Media, right? Because we'd love to help. But anyways, I say all that to say, I want to be able to do what fulfills me, what I enjoy. I don't want to have to show up for something because I need the money. No one wants to do that. But oftentimes people have to do that forever because they don't make the sacrifice of willing to invest the money now, right? Buy assets now, buy income now. They will give them that autonomy in the future. Most people want their best life right now. And as a result, they'll never really get to it. Sorry, I know that seems harsh, right? But if you're not willing to prioritize buying income, then you'll always have to earn it. And here's how I've been breaking it down for people lately. Retirement has nothing to do about age. It has everything to do with assets. And more importantly, has everything to do with cash flow, right? However, most people are led to believe they got to wait till 55, 60, 65, 70, or that they never can retire because retirement is this arbitrary thing that's based upon age. But retirement is really just a number, right? Look at how much money you need to live your lifestyle. And once you have that number calculated, you can figure out your retirement number. If you adopt the traditional method of wealth building, that might mean that you have $1 to $1.5 million in an investment account. If you adopt some of the philosophies that I've shared on this channel, it might mean that you have some money invested in an investment account, but you're able to leverage that account to buy cash flow producing assets that can condense the timeline. Whatever you decide, backing into your freedom number is doable. And in doing so, you got to ask yourself, am I on track with hitting that target? Am I ahead of schedule? Or am I not even in the game? Right? Because if you're not in the game, then guess what? You have to work for the rest of your life. It's very, very simple. You have bills, you have rent, mortgage, car payment, cell phone, etc., other stuff, food, whatever, gas. If you don't have a machine or a mechanism that can produce that money that you need for your lifestyle, then you have to produce it. It's that simple, right? So when you think about not being responsible, not monitoring your budget, not allocating money towards investing. And I know one area of opportunity that almost everybody has is eating out. You check that eating out budget, see how much money you spend here and there. Postmates, Uber Eats. Postmates a thing? I don't think Postmates is a thing no more. Food delivery. Dining out. That's where you got the most opportunity. And believe it or not, I don't know if I want to do an episode, but I want to do a topic on like ever since the pandemic started, we started doing like Instacart or one of its competitors. And it is my belief that when you order something from Instacart, you'll still see the item, right, that you buy when you're buying it on the app for, let's say, $2.49. My belief is that they're marking up everything, and that's how they make money. And here's the thing, even if they only mark it up 2 to 3%, right, plus the delivery fee, etc., they're just being the middleman. Oh gosh, I don't know how I haven't talked about this before. Y'all know how I feel about middleman businesses, right? And how the whole economy is built off that. Think about it. Y'all are ordering groceries. They're marking it up anywhere from 5 to 20%, right? They're not the ones that are doing the shopping, right? They're not the one. Well, in this sense, Instacart is the middleman. So Instacart doesn't have to carry the inventory, right? All Instacart has to do is connect somebody who's willing to deliver the groceries with the grocery store who has the thing. As I always like to say, somebody has it, somebody wants it, and somebody connects both people. And they're marking it up. And as a result, you're spending all your money on food. Now, here's the thing. I'm cool with convenience tax when it makes sense. And convenience tax is a tax on the lazy. It means I don't want to do this, so I'm paying more than it would cost me to do it myself. The problem is some of y'all aren't in a position to where you should be doing that. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Remember a couple episodes ago when I broke down like the value of your time and how to buy back your time, right? If you use that calculator, if you're in the club, you will be able to determine if you should outsource something. If your hourly rate, right, multiplied by however long it would take you to do it is less than it would cost you to outsource it. And newsflash, buddy, you might got to do it yourself. And again, it all goes back to entitlement. I just want you guys to win. I don't want to beat you up. I know I was beating you up a little bit this episode, but the moral of the story is I want you guys to win. And if you're spending more money on these types of expenses that are not required, it is my belief that you're going to significantly impact your ability to retire, or you're going to jeopardize it altogether. And I don't want that for you on the Financial Freedom Fast Lane of all shows. Okay. Well, guys, that's my time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, freedom is for sale if you're willing to pay the price. Peace.